Most men spend their entire lives chasing approval, repeating routines, and calling it purpose, until one day in the silence they feel it, that ache, the quiet voice that whispers, "You were meant for more." This isn't motivation, it's a warning, because what you're about to hear will confront you. It will ask you to let go of who you've been and rise into the man you were born to become. 7 brutal, unspoken lessons most men never learn until it's too late. But if you're listening now, it's not too late for you. The truth is here. Will you rise or remain? Most men don't even realize it's happening. They move through life on autopilot, working, eating, obeying, aging. They follow rules written by people who've long stopped questioning them. They wear the mask. They chase applause. They repeat the script, and they call it a life. But if you catch them in the quiet moments, when the world finally shuts up, when the noise dies down and the mirror gets a little too honest, you'll see it. That ache, that quiet, relentless ache. It doesn't scream. It doesn't demand attention. It waits. It waits for the silence. It waits for the stillness. It waits for the man behind the mask to whisper, "I should be further. I should be stronger. I was meant for more." That's not weakness. That's not shame. That's the beginning. That's the ache of becoming. The most sacred moment in a man's life is not the day he graduates, marries, or closes his first deal. It's the day the ache gets too loud to ignore. You were trained not to feel it, conditioned to dismiss it, told to get back to work. Be grateful. Be realistic. Be quiet. So you buried it beneath distractions. You muted it with substances. You diluted it with comfort. But it never left. That ache is your soul's alarm clock, and you've been hitting snooze for years. Let me tell you something dangerous. Most men will die without ever answering that ache. They'll distract themselves to the grave. They'll become masters at staying busy, but never becoming who they were meant to be. And they'll justify it. They'll call it responsibility. They'll call it maturity. But deep down, in that part of them they don't let anyone see, they'll know. They played it safe, and they lost. But you've heard it now, and that changes everything. Because once you hear the ache, once you finally listen to that quiet voice that says, "You were born for more," you can never unhear it. You can't go back to pretending. You can't return to numbness. You either obey it or betray it. And betrayal doesn't look like a dramatic fall. It looks like slow decay. It looks like a man who's alive but not living. The ache is sacred. The ache is permission. The ache is your soul refusing to die quietly. Don't medicate it. Don't rationalize it. Don't bury it in busyness. Listen. Let it hurt. Let it speak. Let it move you. Because buried inside that ache is every version of the man you were meant to become. The focused one, the disciplined one, the powerful one. He's waiting, but he won't wait forever. This is your moment. The mask is slipping. The noise has faded. The ache is speaking. So decide now. Will you keep repeating a life you've outgrown, or will you rise into the one that's been calling you all along? Because this time, if you don't listen, you'll feel it even deeper tomorrow. The ache never leaves. It only gets louder until you become the man you were meant to be, or you die wondering who that man might have been. You think you're your own man, that your choices are yours alone, that your beliefs, your pace, your voice are pure products of your will. But that's the lie, the most dangerous one, because the truth is this: you are not who you think you are. You are who you allow around you. Everything about you, the words you use, the standards you keep, the size of your dreams, was shaped by your environment long before you ever questioned it. And most men never do. They live inside invisible boundaries drawn by the tone of their home, the rhythm of their friendships, the language of their circle. Not because they are weak, but because repetition rewrites reality. It doesn't take much. One friend who makes small talk feel like a celebration of mediocrity. One family member who chuckles every time you dream out loud. One group chat that never speaks about building, only watching. And over time, you bend, you adjust, you lower your tone, you speak less boldly, you hesitate more often. You start calling it balance or realism, but deep down, you know, it's fear. Not yours, but theirs. And now it's become yours too. This is how most men live, slowly sedated by an environment that demands nothing but compliance. They adapt to comfort. They inhale fear like oxygen. And then they wonder why their life feels hollow, why their fire is dying even though they still move their hands like they're working. Because you cannot build fire in a room of cold water. You cannot rise in a space that anchors you to who you used to be. But here's the part that stings the most. You've chosen this, not actively, not loudly, but through permission, through silence, through proximity. You let them stay. You kept returning to the same circles, the same conversations, the same tone. And that repetition shaped your identity more than any book you've read or video you've watched. Let me tell you the truth that most men won't say aloud. You don't outgrow your environment. You escape it. You leave it. You challenge it. You edit it. Or it becomes you. Every minute spent tolerating a voice that shrinks your vision is a vote against your future. Every laugh at smallness, every nod at mediocrity, it all stacks up. And eventually, you start echoing them. So ask yourself now, not tomorrow, who are your 5 voices? The ones you hear the most? The ones shaping your urgency, your language, your self-worth? If you remove them today, would you accelerate or collapse? You are not stronger than your surroundings. You are a reflection of them. So if your room does not sharpen you, it is softening you. And if the people around you fear your fire, they will extinguish it every chance they get, smiling all the while. Change the room or be changed by it. Because in the end, your environment doesn't just influence your fate. It is your fate. You were never taught to fear normal. In fact, you were told to aim for it. Be a good man. Get a decent job. Don't rock the boat. Stay out of trouble. Smile when it hurts. Say thank you even when you're dying inside. Blend in. Fit the mold. And little by little you did. Not because you were weak, but because the voice of normal doesn't scream. It whispers. And that's what makes it lethal. Normal is slow. It's polite. It doesn't demand your soul. It just asks for your weekends. It doesn't call itself a cage. It calls itself reasonable. And it doesn't steal your fire overnight. It does it gradually, methodically, until one day you wake up and wonder what happened to the version of you that used to feel dangerous. The version of you that dreamed without filters. The version that didn't apologize for his hunger. That man didn't disappear. He was lulled to sleep. You see, most men are not hypnotized by swinging watches. They are hypnotized by casual conversations, by mild sarcasm, by the soft jokes that make ambition seem arrogant. They're hypnotized by friends who mean well but never mean more, by family who say, don't overdo it, by coworkers who laugh at the fire in your eyes. And slowly you join them. You repeat their language. You lower your volume. You stop reaching. Not because you failed, but because you've adapted. That's what humans do. We adapt to our environment. And when that environment worships mediocrity, you forget you were ever built for more. This is the hypnosis of normal, a trance where days blend together, where growth feels excessive, where urgency seems rude, and you become just like them, quiet, predictable, safe. You don't feel the loss all at once. It shows up in small ways. A skipped workout, a deleted idea, a dream postponed again. But it's happening. You're being reshaped. And here's the worst part. You don't notice. Because mediocrity doesn't feel painful. It feels familiar. And familiarity is addictive. You will defend it. You will justify it. You will call it wisdom. And by the time you realize the cost, years have passed. Your fire is cold, your edge is dull, and the world has moved on. But now you're awake, at least for this moment, and that's enough. Because once you see the trance, you can break it. You can choose discomfort over decay. You can choose fire over familiarity. But you must act fast, because normal doesn't give up easily. It will whisper again tomorrow. It will beg you to stay quiet, stay tired, stay small. And if you listen, it will tuck you back into sleep with a smile. So I'll ask you one question, and let it burn through the fog. Are you still dreaming, or have you already been put to sleep? Because the world doesn't need another good man. It needs a dangerous one, a man who remembers, a man who rises, a man who refuses to be hypnotized by normal. Most men never stop to ask the question that could change everything. Who am I allowing to shape me? Not who do I love, not who do I trust, but who do I listen to daily, silently, subconsciously? Because here's the truth. You are not becoming the man you think you are. You are becoming the man your 5 closest voices reflect. That's not philosophy. That's law. Every word you absorb, every tone you tolerate, every opinion you entertain is a fingerprint on your identity. You think you're just being social, you think you're just being polite, but your subconscious doesn't make that distinction. It doesn't care if the voice comes from a stranger, a sibling, or your best friend since childhood. It only records what's repeated, and what's repeated becomes real. So while you're out chasing progress, discipline, clarity, your own circle might be the very thing holding you down. Not out of hate, not even out of jealousy, but because their frequency doesn't match your future. And yet you still answer the calls. You still show up. You still laugh at the same tired jokes, nod at the same safe ideas, and listen to the same recycled doubts, all while wondering why your fire feels dimmer lately. It's not burnout, it's exposure. You are not tired because you're doing too much. You're tired because you're surrounded by people doing too little, and your spirit knows the difference. You're not frustrated because you're confused. You're frustrated because the voices around you don't believe in the version of you that's trying to emerge. And every time you hear them, that version has to fight to stay alive. Ask yourself, slowly and ruthlessly, who are your 5? The 5 voices that dominate your life. The people who speak to you most, directly or indirectly, in person or online, through encouragement or silence. Write them down. Don't justify them. Don't rank them by how long they've known you. Rank them by how clearly they reflect the man you're becoming. And then ask the harder question, if I remove these 5 voices today, would I rise faster or collapse? That answer will shake you. It should, because most men never ask it. They confuse familiarity with alignment. They confuse history with destiny. And so they drag yesterday's circle into tomorrow's calling, wondering why everything feels heavier. But the truth is simple. Who you listen to daily is who you are becoming. Their pace becomes your pace. Their standards become your standards. Their energy, their tone, their urgency, it all becomes the rhythm of your life. So change the rhythm. Change the 5. Don't do it with hate. Do it with precision, with gratitude, with clarity. Because you do not owe access to anyone who doesn't honor your evolution. You do not owe your ears to voices that fear your fire. You owe your future to the voice that's been whispering all along, I was meant for more. Now choose the 5 that help you become him, or risk becoming the man they expect you to be. You were told since you were a boy that hard work was the answer, that if you woke up early, put in the hours, push through the pain, you'd win. And you believed it. You wore that belief like armor. You made struggle your identity. You found comfort in exhaustion. You called it honor. You called it discipline. But let me say something most men never want to hear, because if they did, their entire life would unravel. Hard work is not enough. It never was. The world is full of men who grind from dawn till dusk. Men with calloused hands, tired eyes, aching backs, who will still die broke, unseen, unfulfilled, not because they didn't give enough, but because they never built anything. They spent their life laboring without leverage. They worked harder the more they fell behind, and they called that noble. They called it character. But sweat is not strategy. You don't win because you suffer more. You win because you step back, see the game, and change how you play. You win because you build systems, relationships, and value that multiplies without needing your body to break. You win because you learn that 10 hours of hustle is nothing compared to 1 hour of clarity. But clarity is rare because it requires you to stop moving. And most men are terrified of stillness. They'd rather suffer than think. They'd rather drown in work than ask the harder question, is this working? Let me put it plainly. If you don't learn to build leverage, if you don't learn how to multiply your time, your effort, your mind, you will become another ghost in the machine. A man who was always busy but never became. A man who gave everything and still left nothing behind. Look at the greats. Look at Ford, Carnegie, Edison. They weren't the hardest workers in the room. They were the smartest builders. They created frameworks. They bought back time. They scaled their influence. They understood what most men ignore, that building with leverage is not just more efficient, it's sacred. It is the only path to freedom. So what are you building? Not just with your hands, but with your mind. What systems are you creating? What value exists when you sleep? What relationships multiply your impact? If the answer is nothing, then your grind is a treadmill. You're moving fast, but you're going nowhere. And one day you'll look up and realize you ran your whole life and never arrived. That's spiritual poverty, giving your life away one drop at a time, thinking it's noble to stay tired. But now you know better. So stop glorifying the grind. Start glorifying the build. Step back. Think deeper. Move smarter. Leverage isn't luxury. It's survival. And without it, your labor is just slow death disguised as duty. You weren't born to dig forever. You were born to build. There are two kinds of men in this world, the ones who bleed and the ones who build. Both feel pain, both wake up early, both carry weight, but only one rises. Only one gets free. Only one changes the game. The bleeder is proud of how much he can endure. He takes pride in his exhaustion. He brags about being busy. He romanticizes the struggle. He tells himself the grind is honorable. But watch closely. His life never expands. His influence never compounds. He keeps pushing, keeps sweating, keeps sacrificing, but nothing changes because he believes pain is progress. He believes effort is everything, and that belief is killing him. He's not lazy. He's not weak. He's simply lost in the myth that working harder is the only answer. And so he suffers without strategy. He tries to outmuscle a system that was never built for him. And the worst part, he thinks that's what being a man means. But the builder, he thinks differently. He doesn't worship the grind. He studies the game. He sees every task, every pattern, every hour as a lever to be optimized. He doesn't just move, he engineers. He doesn't just do, he designs. He asks, can this scale? Can this repeat? Can this be delegated, automated, improved? The builder is not interested in proving how much he can take. He's obsessed with creating what others can't even imagine. He values clarity more than effort. He values outcome over optics. While the bleeder is telling you how tired he is, the builder is showing you results, and he's doing it with less noise, less drama, and more precision. This is what separates men who rise from men who rot, the mindset of engineering over endurance. And here's the part no one tells you. Most builders used to be bleeders. They gave everything to the grind. They collapsed. They broke. And in the rubble, they saw it. Pain alone doesn't produce progress. Strategy does. Leverage does. Systems do. They didn't abandon hard work. They redirected it. They stopped trying to be machines. They became architects. So now ask yourself, which one are you? Do you wear your exhaustion like a badge? Do you confuse tiredness with value? Do you think that just because you stayed late, you're ahead? Or do you step back? Do you analyze? Do you build? Look at your day, your week, your life. Are you bleeding endlessly into a job, a business, a pattern that never gives back? Or are you constructing something that multiplies? Bleeders burn out. Builders break through. You must decide. Because the world doesn't reward the man who sweats the most. It rewards the man who thinks the deepest, moves the smartest, and builds with intention. You weren't put here to pour yourself out drop by drop for a life that doesn't expand. You were meant to engineer your escape. Stop bleeding. Start building. You can be disciplined. You can be relentless. You can wake up at 4 a.m., hit the gym, grind all day, outwork everyone. But if you don't have systems, people, and time on your side, you're not building anything. You're just busy. You're just surviving. You're just running in place with perfect posture. Effort is not enough. Energy is not enough. Motivation is not enough. Because without leverage, your effort will always be limited to what you can carry. And no man, no matter how gifted, can carry greatness alone. You will burn out. You will fall behind. And worse, you'll start calling that failure normal. This is the part no one taught you. You were told to hustle. You were taught to grind. But no one handed you the tools. No one said, hey, if you're going to build anything that lasts, you're going to need more than brute force. You're going to need leverage. And leverage lives in 3 places: systems, people, and time. Let's start with systems. A system is a process that repeats without chaos. It's not sexy. It's not loud. But it is sacred. Systems protect your energy. They remove decision fatigue. They make success automatic. If your life is built on improvisation, if you wake up every day and make it up as you go, you are not free. You are fragile. One bad day and everything collapses. But a man with systems can weather storms. He can scale his vision without collapsing his mind. Ford didn't build faster cars. He built a better process. And that process made him unstoppable. Next is people. You are not designed to do this alone. Isolation might feel noble, but it's dangerous. One man with a shovel can dig for years and barely scratch the surface. But one man who builds a team, who delegates with clarity, who surrounds himself with fire, focus, and skill, that man creates empires. Carnegie didn't do it alone. He curated a circle of giants, and every one of them sharpened his vision. That's not weakness, that's wisdom. Who you build with will either collapse your dream or make it bulletproof. And finally, time. This is the most misunderstood lever of all. Most men spend it like a currency they'll never run out of. They scroll, they stall, they delay, and they call it planning. But time is not a budget, it's a multiplier. The man who spends time is always broke. The man who invested into assets, skills, relationships, and ideas that grow while he sleeps, that man becomes untouchable. So here's the truth. Systems give you structure, people give you force, and time gives you scale. Without them, your grind is just noise. But with them, your grind becomes a machine. Audit your life right now. Where is the chaos? Where is the silence? Where is the waste? And most of all, where are you doing everything yourself, hoping hard work will save you? Because it won't. Only leverage will. Stop lifting the weight alone. Build the system. Find the people. Multiply the time. That's how you rise. There's a truth most men never face. Not until it's too late. Not until the damage is done. You're carrying people who were never meant to walk with you. You're granting access to voices that shrink your fire. And the most dangerous part? You're doing it in the name of love. You think love means proximity. You think love means keeping them close no matter what. You think because they were there for you once, they belong with you forever. But love and loyalty are not the same thing. Loyalty to others becomes betrayal when it costs you your future. You can love someone deeply and still outgrow them. That's not cold. That's not cruel. That's growth. The version of you that's rising, the one you fought for, sacrificed for, needs protection. And not everyone deserves a front row seat to that evolution. Some people are not enemies. They're just misaligned. Their rhythm doesn't match your pace. Their beliefs don't reflect your direction. Their tone, their habits, their energy, it all pulls you backward. But you keep them close because you feel guilty, because you think it's loyalty, because you haven't yet realized the cost of carrying someone who no longer fits your calling. Let me tell you what that cost looks like. It's the hesitation in your voice when you share your dream. It's the second guessing after their silence. It's the fire you put out because you didn't want to make them uncomfortable. And every time you do it, you reinforce a life that no longer belongs to you. You have to understand this. Access is power. Who you allow close shapes what you believe, how you move, what you tolerate. And the man who grants unlimited access out of habit will be shaped by people who are never qualified to build with him. Roosevelt didn't rise because he was sentimental. He rose because he was intentional. He chose who walked with him. He chose who spoke into his mind. And when someone's presence no longer served his vision, he cut ties, not out of hate, out of strategy. That's not arrogance, that's clarity. You are not responsible for dragging every person from your past into your future. Some people were chapters, not lifetimes. Some were lessons, not partners. Some were catalysts, not companions. And if you confuse those roles, you will carry dead weight into the most sacred season of your life. This is your permission to let go, to release without resentment, to set boundaries without explanation. You don't need their understanding. You need your evolution. Say this now and say it often. I do not owe everyone access just because I once gave it. Say it until it becomes your standard. Say it until your circle reflects your mission, not your memory. Because the man who guards his gate, who chooses his counsel, who protects his pace, he doesn't just grow. He becomes unstoppable. It's not laziness that keeps most men stuck. It's guilt, quiet, constant, disguised as love, as honor, as doing the right thing. They stay in the wrong circles, stay in dead relationships, keep showing up to the same tired conversations, laughing at the same old mediocrity, not because they're weak, but because they feel they owe it to someone. And that feeling, that obligation, that internal tug of war, that's the assassin. Guilt doesn't scream. It doesn't fight. It doesn't force you into chaos. It whispers, don't be ungrateful. They've been there for you. You're being selfish. And before you realize what's happening, you're walking at half speed so nobody feels left behind. You're lowering your tone so no one feels challenged. You're shrinking, apologizing, explaining, just to maintain peace with people who stopped growing years ago. You think you're being kind, but what you're really doing is dying slow. Most men won't admit this. They'll say, I'm loyal. They'll say, I'm patient. They'll say, I'm just waiting for the right time. But deep down, they know the truth. They should have left already. They should have walked out of that room, out of that group chat, out of that stale version of themselves. But they didn't, because they confused guilt with love. And that confusion cost them their momentum. Let me make it clear. Loyalty is beautiful until it becomes betrayal. And what most men are betraying is themselves, their mission, their clarity, their fire, all sacrificed so they don't offend the ones who fear their evolution. You were not born to make everyone comfortable. You were not given vision so you could dilute it to keep the peace. You were not put on this earth to carry dead weight in the name of being nice. Growth requires discomfort, and sometimes that discomfort is walking away without an apology. Sometimes it's saying no without explanation. Sometimes it's choosing silence over justification. Because if you keep explaining your growth to people who are committed to staying the same, you'll eventually start believing you're the problem. You're not. You've just outgrown the room, and now you're paying for it with your energy, your discipline, your spirit. And the price will keep rising until you decide you've paid enough. So ask yourself right now, where are you staying small just to make someone else feel safe? Who are you carrying out of habit, not alignment? What conversation are you avoiding because you don't want to seem harsh? And most importantly, what version of yourself are you sacrificing just to be liked by the old one? The men who never rise are not the ones without talent. They're the ones too polite to walk away. Let the guilt go. Let the peace be disturbed. Let your fire offend those who've grown too used to your silence. Because the longer you stay where you no longer belong, the more your future becomes just another casualty of politeness. Your mind is not loyal to truth. It's loyal to repetition. And that right there is the most dangerous thing most men never learn. You think because you're smart, because you read, because you analyze, that you're immune. But the subconscious doesn't care about intelligence. It doesn't care about facts. It doesn't ask if something is real, noble, or wise. It only asks, have I heard this enough to make it normal? That's the law of the mind. And if you don't understand it, you will live your entire life under beliefs you never chose. Look around. Most men are not thinking. They're echoing. Their voice is their father's tone. Their urgency is their friend group's rhythm. Their confidence, or lack of it, comes from the voices they tolerated for too long. And they don't even realize it because it doesn't feel like brainwashing. It feels like this is just who I am. But it's not who you are. It's who you were programmed to be. And that programming didn't happen in one dramatic moment. It happened through slow, steady repetition. A joke here, a comment there, a warning, a doubt, a hesitation, repeated enough times until it felt like wisdom. And now it sits in your mind like a virus, disguised as your personality. This is why so many men sabotage their own greatness, not because they're unqualified, but because their mind was trained over years to reject anything that feels too big, too bold, too unrealistic. They say they want success, but when they start to reach for it, their subconscious flinches. And without even knowing why, they back down. That's not lack of drive, that's repetition doing its job. You see, the mind is always listening. Every song, every conversation, every post, every tone you absorb is casting a vote for the man you're becoming. And if you let the wrong voices in, you'll be driven by ideas that never belong to you. But here's the power. What was installed by repetition can be replaced by repetition. You can choose new language. You can choose new thoughts. You can speak new patterns into existence. Not once, not when you feel like it, daily, relentlessly. Repetition isn't just a threat. It's a tool. And the man who uses it on purpose becomes unstoppable. But you have to get ruthless. Audit your inputs. Audit your music, your media, your conversations, your own self-talk. You cannot program strength in a room filled with weakness. You cannot install greatness when your phone is a stream of mediocrity. You cannot speak fire into yourself once and expect to burn forever. You must repeat it daily. Because your mind doesn't become what's true, it becomes what's heard the most. So make sure the loudest voice in your life is the one calling you higher, not the one reminding you to stay small. That voice is yours now. Speak it like a weapon, repeat it like a law, and watch your reality change. There's a reason you fall back into old habits, a reason your goals feel strong on Monday and distant by Friday, a reason you say you're changing, but deep down, something keeps dragging you back to the same patterns, the same rhythms, the same results. And it's not because you're weak, it's because you're unarmed. Your subconscious is a battlefield. And if you're not programming it daily, it's already being programmed by someone else, by something else, by yesterday. You can't fight old identity with willpower alone. You can't outwork the voice in your head if that voice still belongs to your past. You must install new thoughts, program new beliefs, and do it with the same repetition that built the ones you're trying to escape. This is why most men never rise. They read the book, they watch the video, they feel the fire for a few days, but they never build the ritual. They never establish the daily mental workout. They never create the system that makes greatness automatic. So let me give it to you now. The daily programming protocol. Not theory, practice. Not motivation, installation. Step 1, identity statement. Write it, speak it, own it. I am disciplined. I am focused. I am wealthy. I am a builder. I am a leader. Not someday. Now. Not if. I am. Use language that burns, words that stretch you. Say them until they stop sounding like lies and start sounding like laws. Step 2, speak it aloud, not in your head, not mumbled. Say it with volume, with posture, with conviction. Your body must feel it. Your voice must echo it, because the subconscious doesn't listen to whispers. It listens to command. Step 3, visualize it. See the room. See the bank account. See the business. See the life. Let your imagination rehearse reality. Don't just dream. Install. Build the mental movie so clearly your subconscious can't tell the difference. Because once your brain accepts it as real, it starts making decisions to protect it. Step 4. Curate your environment. Your identity cannot grow in a space that echoes your old self. Change your music. Change your phone wallpaper. Change what's on your walls, what's in your ears, who you talk to, what you scroll. You cannot say, I am fire, in a room that keeps putting out the flame. Step 5. Reprogram at night. Right before bed, the mind is most receptive in those final moments. Speak your identity again. Visualize again. Let your mind fall asleep rehearsing the man you are becoming. That's not fantasy. That's foundation. Do this daily, without fail. No excuses. This is how warriors train. This is how visionaries rise. Not by chance, by ritual. Because greatness is not a moment of hype. It is a system of repetition. And the man who repeats his power becomes it. Speak it. See it. Surround it. Sleep in it. Become it. You can have the plan. You can have the fire. You can be disciplined, clear, and obsessed with becoming something greater. But if the voice closest to you, the one you share your soul with, doubts your growth, you're not building a future. You're building a prison. And the chains are soft. They come wrapped in concern, in caution, in are you sure? And don't you think that's too much? They come in size, in silence, in looks that don't match your ambition. And the most dangerous part? It doesn't sound like sabotage. It sounds like love. But real love doesn't shrink you. It doesn't whisper fear into your fire. It doesn't flinch when you speak your vision. Real love says go further, go faster. I believe in who you're becoming. Most men never hear that. Most men build beside someone who only knows the old version of them and tries to keep him alive, not out of hate, not even jealousy, but because your evolution threatens the rhythm. It shifts the dynamic. And when you begin to rise, she feels the foundation shake. So she holds you tighter, not to support you, to anchor you. And you let her. Because you mistake her softness for support, her comfort for commitment, her concern for care. But if every time you speak boldly, she pulls you back to safety, then she's not your partner. She's your warden. And no man can build anything real from a cell. This is the part most men will never say aloud. They'll go their whole lives walking beside someone who dims their light because they feel loyal, because they think love is enough, because they're too polite to confront the truth. If she doubts my growth, she is not my future. Read that again, because this isn't about blame. This is about alignment. You cannot build with someone who fears your next level. You cannot become your future self while constantly explaining your fire to someone who prefers you smaller. That's not love. That's spiritual decay. So what do? You speak your vision clearly, repeatedly, with no filter. You say, this is where I'm going, this is who I'm becoming, this is what I'm building, and then you watch, not her words, her energy. Does she rise to meet it? Does she speak life into it? Or does she get quiet, confused, resistant? If she can't grow with you, she can't go with you. This is the cost of evolution. You don't just outgrow places and habits, you outgrow people. Even the ones you once loved, even the ones who once held your hand. And if you don't make peace with that, you'll keep dragging the past into your future. And it will keep poisoning everything you build. So say it aloud and let it burn. The voice closest to me must reflect the man I am becoming. Anything less isn't love, it's a leash. From the moment you could speak, they taught you to seek it. Approval. They handed you the script. Be polite, be agreeable, don't speak too loud, don't stand out too much. You learned that comfort meant compliance, that applause was a reward for making others feel safe. And somewhere along the way, you believed it. You stopped telling the truth when it made people uncomfortable. You dimmed your fire because someone squinted. You buried your ambition under layers of politeness, afraid of being called too much. And slowly, silently, the bars were built. Not around your body, but around your spirit. That's what approval does. It builds a golden cage. It feels safe. It looks good. You're praised for staying inside. You're liked. You're invited. You're such a good guy. But every compliment comes with a condition. Don't change too fast. Don't speak too boldly. Don't outgrow what we're used to. And if you do, the smile fades. The applause stops. The invitations dry up. That's when most men retreat. They go back to being manageable, back to being agreeable, back to being liked, because they've never learned how to stand alone. They've never built the muscle of misunderstood. But you cannot rise without it, because greatness offends. It disrupts. It shakes foundations. It scares the average. And if you're still addicted to being liked, you will sabotage your own power the moment it makes someone else uncomfortable. You are not born to be liked. You were born to be legendary. And legends are not applauded in real time. They are judged, doubted, criticized, ridiculed, and still they move. Still they build. Still they speak. Not because the crowd agrees, but because the calling demands it. Approval is not safety. It's seduction. It whispers that you're winning when all you're doing is obeying. It flatters your ego while starving your evolution. It keeps you small enough to fit inside the room, but never bold enough to redesign it. So you have a choice. You can keep decorating your cage, keep chasing likes, keep bending your truth into whatever shape the room prefers. Or you can break the door down, step into the wild, and speak with fire, knowing full well it may cost you the comfort of being understood. The world does not need another agreeable man. It needs a dangerous one, a man who's willing to be called arrogant, a man who's willing to be disliked for telling the truth, a man who walks forward even when no one claps. Let that be you. Say this aloud. I do not need to be liked. I need to be aligned. I choose purpose over popularity, truth over approval, fire over politeness. Because on the other side of disapproval is freedom, the kind no applause can buy. There comes a moment in every man's life when he must make a decision that feels like a betrayal, but is actually a beginning. the moment he stops turning around to see who's clapping, the moment he walks forward without applause, without reassurance, without permission. That's the moment he becomes free. Most never get there. Most men still need the nod, the smile, the subtle approval from the people they fear losing. They take steps forward, but only when the crowd is cheering. They chase purpose, but only at a volume that doesn't offend. They speak truth, but only if it doesn't risk rejection. And every time they do, they hand their power to someone else. Because if your momentum depends on approval, then you are not free. You are waiting for praise, waiting for support, waiting for someone to say, it's okay to go. And that wait becomes your prison. The applause becomes your leash. And every day you listen for it, you drift further from the man you're supposed to become. Let me tell you something raw. Most of your growth will happen in silence. Most of your breakthrough moments will come without recognition. The decision to go harder, to move faster, to think deeper, that's not met with celebration. It's met with confusion, distance, maybe even resentment. Because when you change, it reminds others of their decision not to. And they'll let you know it. Not always with anger, sometimes with absence, sometimes with jokes, sometimes with the quiet withdrawal of approval that you didn't realize you depended on until it's gone. But here's the truth that sets you free. You don't need them. You never did. You don't need validation to build. You don't need permission to rise. You don't need the audience to understand the path. Because most people can't see past their own fear. They don't clap because they're scared. Scared that your evolution will expose their excuses, that your discipline will highlight their delay, that your fire will make their comfort look like complacency. So let them sit in that discomfort. Let the applause die behind you. Let it echo in rooms you've already outgrown. Because your life isn't built for cheers. It's built for command, for truth, for movement. And when you finally stop waiting to be celebrated, when you stop looking over your shoulder, you'll find something better than approval. You'll find peace. Peace that doesn't need to be seen. Peace that doesn't need to be explained. Peace that moves silently, but with force. The kind of peace that builds empires. So say this and say it loud. I no longer need applause to move. I no longer wait for permission. I go because I'm called. I lead because I must. Because the man who walks alone at first will never walk alone forever. He becomes the signal others were waiting for. But first he must walk, without claps, without cheers, without looking back. Let them applaud later. Right now, build. Most men live like they have time, like they'll get serious next year, like their calling has no expiration date. They move slow, plan slow, think slow, because deep down they've bought into the biggest lie ever sold. There's still plenty of time. But I'm going to say something no one else will. You do not have time. You have now, and now is running out. Time doesn't ask for your permission. It doesn't pause while you hesitate. It doesn't wait until you're ready. It doesn't care about your anxiety or your schedule or your excuses. It moves, with or without you. And if you don't match its pace, you will lose. Not because you weren't talented, because you were slow. This is where the one-year mindset changes everything. Imagine it. 12 months, that's it. 1 year to become the man you were meant to be. No backup plan, no someday, just the fire of now. Every decision matters. Every hour counts. You don't waste time explaining. You don't spend weeks doubting. You move, because the clock is watching. And this time, you're watching it back. That's how warriors think. That's how legends are built, not with vague intentions, but with brutal urgency. They don't wait for the universe to give them a green light. They become the green light. They stop asking, what if, and start saying, watch me. And here's the truth. When you live like time is short, you think clearer. You speak louder. You act faster. You don't keep toxic people around. You don't chase dead opportunities. You don't entertain anything that doesn't move the needle, because there's no time to delay greatness just to keep mediocrity comfortable. But most men, they never adopt this mindset. They drift. They wait for motivation. They wait for someone to believe in them. And every day they wait, their dream quietly bleeds out. Until one day they wake up to a life they don't recognize, built by the decisions they didn't make. You don't have to be one of them. You can choose urgency. You can live with force. You can say, if I only had 1 year, how would I move? And then move that way, every day, every hour, with full intention, with clean focus, with zero apology. Say this to yourself right now. I do not have time. I have now. And now is sacred. Repeat it until it becomes instinct, until you stop stalling, until you start living like the man who knows the clock is ruthless and lives anyway. Because the man who moves with urgency is not just faster. He's free. There is a line you must cross, a moment where everything changes, a moment where you stop circling the same thoughts, stop repeating the same cycles, stop waiting for another sign. And that moment is now, because if you've made it this far, you already know. These lessons were never just motivation. They are law. Laws of the mind, laws of power, laws of transformation. They are not something you feel. They are something you obey, or you don't. And the man who doesn't obey them will stay exactly where he is, comfortable, confused, half awake, full of potential, and empty of momentum. That is what's at stake, not just your goals, not just your income, your identity. Everything you are, everything you want to become, lives on the other side of a decision you've been postponing, a line you've been too careful to cross. You've nodded along to the truth. You felt the fire. You've said, that's exactly what I needed to hear. But what you do next is what makes this real, because there's no power in inspiration without execution, no freedom and wisdom without obedience, no change without sacrifice. And that sacrifice, it's not something you can half do. You can't keep one foot in the old life while trying to build the new one. You can't become him, the man you were born to be, while still explaining yourself to people who only remember who you used to be. You can't rise while still managing their comfort. So burn the bridge, not in anger, not in bitterness, but in finality. Burn the bridge to who you were, to the thoughts, the doubts, the delays, the dependencies. Let the smoke rise, let the ashes settle, and let that fire be your fuel. Because this isn't about starting another routine, it's about becoming another man, the man who speaks like he's already won, who moves with urgency, who protects his environment like a throne room, who chooses partners like strategic allies, who programs his mind like it's sacred territory, who doesn't ask for permission, who doesn't explain his edge, who doesn't wait for applause, the man who leads. You already know what to do. You already know who needs to be released. What habits must die? What voices must go silent? What parts of you are expired? You've always known. You were just waiting for something to push you over the line. This is it. This is that moment. So decide. Do you rise or do you remain? Do you become the man in your vision or return to the man in your memory? Not with words, with action, with clarity, with finality. Say this and let it burn through every excuse, every delay, every reason you've been stuck. I burn the bridge. I do not look back. I rise now. And once you say it, live it. Because there's no more later, only now. And now is yours.